Hello.
What's up?
How's everybody doing?
How you doing?
I guess we'll get right on into it.
Let's do it.
So we brought you part 1 of this, and I was on the struggle bus last time. I feel like I wrote this episode better, for part 2 of our Greek Mythology series. This is part 2 of the Olympians. So this is the second half. And we'll just dive right on in with Hephaestus. Hephaestus is the god of blacksmiths and fire. He is called the celestial artificer, and has often been associated with craftsmen such as sculptors, carpenters, and metalworkers, and is also associated with volcanoes, much as his Roman counterpart Vulcan. He was considered an ugly god that was lamed by his own mother and was the husband of Aphrodite. Honestly, no wonder he got so upset when she was screwing around all the time if I was considered an ugly little man and my wife was like one of the most beautiful Greek goddesses. And then she wouldn't have anything to really do with me and was obsessed with her brother instead. I think I would be upset. Our brother.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Hephaestus was also her brother. It is not known the origin of his name, but Hephaestus is similar to a few pre-Greek toponyms, such as Phaistos, and it is thought that he is a very old deity. Hephaestus is one of the more extraordinary members of the Olympian pantheon, in that he does not fit the mold of the other Olympians. He is bearded and considered to be ugly, stocky, and lame. He doesn't possess the same physical flawness as his 11 counterparts and does not stimulate the same respect. The epithets that are most commonly associated with Hephaestus aren't all that flattering, as he is often referred to as shrewd, the lame one, and the halting. He is often called the Atenea, since it is believed that his workshop was under Mount Etna. It's like spelled like Aetna Insurance.
Right.
So that's how I'm saying it. Homer tells that Hephaestus was the son of Zeus and Hera, but it is unclear if he was born lame or whether he was lamed after his father threw him from Olympus for intervening on the behalf of his mother during a fight she was having with Zeus. And just to be clear, being lamed in the biblical or historical aspect means to be physically impaired, specifically in the legs or feet, making it difficult to walk, like normal. On the other hand, Hesiod claimed that Hephaestus is only Hera's child, and that she gave birth to him by parthenogenesis, in order to get back at her husband, who had done the same thing with Athena. In this version of the story, after Hera brought him into this world, she was so disgusted by the way Hephaestus looked and was so ashamed of his deformity that she was the one who threw him out. And he was severely hurt in the fall, but was rescued by Thetis, and I swear,
You chose this.
Well, no. There's a few names that I missed in putting the phonetical spelling in.
Your enemy.
That's what it looks like. Your enemy, who sheltered him in a cave under the ocean for the next 9 years. Hephaestus did get his revenge, though. He made a golden throne so beautiful that Hera immediately accepted it. But the minute she sat on it, she was tied up by numerous delicately fashioned cords that were invisible to all eyes but their creators. Many of the gods tried to persuade Hephaestus to free Hera, and promised him a place on Olympus in return, but he was unremorseful and only released his mother when Dionysus got him drunk. Hephaestus was a master craftsman. No one was able to build the beautiful, indestructible bronze mansions that housed the other Olympians but him. He was crafty and cunning, added distinctive elements here and there, such as the secure doors of Hera's chamber that no other god could open but her. In the Iliad, Homer speaks of how Hephaestus fashioned himself handmaidens of gold. They were able to understand, speak to, and assist him, but they weren't his only automata creations. He sculpted golden dogs to guard the palace of Alcinous and Talos, and a giant bronze man to protect Crete. Some say that he also sculpted the first mortal woman, Pandora, at the request of Zeus. Additionally, Hephaestus also created some of the most stunning pieces of military equipment ever seen, and most famously, the shield of Achilles. As a favor to Thetis, he masterfully used 5 bronze layers and engraved scenes that represented all aspects of life. He was also the creator of the scepter of Agamemnon, Memnon. Oh my God. The breastplate of Diomedes and the sword of Peleus. For a god who was described as horribly ugly, he somehow bagged himself Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. She wasn't faithful to him, though, and had numerous affairs, most famously with Eris, as we mentioned in the previous part. As we know, Hephaestus caught the lovers in a finely woven chain net and called upon the other gods to laugh at their shame. Poseidon talked him into letting the couple go, but he wasn't done with them. When Eris and Aphrodite's daughter, Harmonia, married Cadmus, Hephaestus gifted her with a magic necklace that would bring misfortune to her and anyone who would wear it after. It has also been suggested that Hephaestus was married to Aglaia, who was the youngest of the Graces. She gave him 4 children, Euclea, Euthenia, Euphemy, and Philophrosrini. It was a lot, and these are with phonetic spellings. I just hope that you would admire the try.
Right.
Hephaestus also attempted to force himself on Athena once, and she managed to escape, which caused his seed to spill on the earth and impregnate Gaia, who afterward gave birth to Erichthonius, who was an early ruler of Athens. There is the common misconception that Hephaestus was weak and insignificant due to his physical deformity, but he was actually highly respected and admired for his craftsmanship and innovative creativity. He was crucial in the construction of the gods' homes on Olympus and in forging their weapons. While it is true that some of the gods mocked him, he was also valued for his unique abilities and contributions to the pantheon. Sometimes Hephaestus was also a patron of the arts, and his exceptional skill in crafting his exquisite sculptures and other beautiful creations led to his association with artists and their work. Additionally, he was said to have crafted his own set of mechanical, self-propelled legs to help him overcome his deformity. This invention not only demonstrates his craft, but also how resilient he was in overcoming the challenges he faced due to his disability.
All right, I have Hera, the Olympian goddess of marriage, the queen of Olympus, and the wife of Zeus. Hera is the deity most often associated with family and the welfare of women and children. Her marriage to Zeus was an unhappy one, though, as she had numerous affairs. Hera was jealous and vengeful and made sure to give each of his consorts a hard time. It is thought that Hera was a very ancient goddess who predated even Zeus. It is assumed that we don't even know what her original name was. Hera is simply a title which translates to lady or mistress. Hera's Roman counterpart was Juno, the goddess who gave her name to the month of June, which is still a popular time for weddings. Often, Hera is portrayed alongside Zeus and is fully clothed and matronly. She has solemn beauty and is often portrayed wearing a cylindrical crown called polos, or a wreath and a veil. She sometimes carries a scepter capped with a pomegranate and a cuckoo. Is that right? Cuckoo?
Or cuckoo.
Cuckoo. Oh, whatever. Which was the former symbol of fertility and a token of the way that she was wooed by Zeus. She is often accompanied by a peacock, which is one of her sacred animals. Homer often refers to Hera as cow-eyed and white-armed, but she is also sometimes referred to as a virgin, since it is believed that she bathed in a spring every year to renew her virginity. Personally, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but good for her.
Yeah, good for her. That was my note.
Hera is the youngest of Cronus and Rhea's 3 daughters after Hestia and Demeter, and is overall their 3rd child, with Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus falling in that order behind her as her younger brothers. Just like her other siblings besides Zeus, she was swallowed by her father and at birth and was later disgorged to be born again, and is sometimes referred to as the eldest daughter. She was the last to be swallowed and the first to be brought back up. As the guardian of marriage and the spouse of the king of gods and men, Hera didn't have a whole lot of choices other than to be a faithful wife. Though she was beautiful, few men and no gods dared to lay their hands on her. Endymion attempted once, but Zeus condemned him to eternal sleep. Ixion fared far worse, though, because Zeus tricked him into making love with a cloud that was fashioned in Hera's image, and then ordered Hermes to bind him to a continuously turning wheel of fire. By all accounts, Hera gave Zeus 4 children. You're saying you're not...
I said Ares, but I think you can also... I think Ares is also...
to say Ares, who is the god of war. Eileithyia, goddess of childbirth. Hebe, goddess of eternal youth. And Hephaestus, the god of fire. Now, when I say Hera was wooed by Zeus, that is not exactly what occurred. She, in fact, was tricked into marriage with Zeus. He knew that she was the goddess that loved animals, and he transformed himself into a cuckoo in distress and only took his original form when Hera took the poor creature to her breast to warm it. She was ashamed of being taken advantage of in such a way and agreed to the marriage. It wasn't a happy one, though. Zeus was brutish and cruel to everyone. Hera was incapable of bearing this any longer and plotted with Poseidon, Athena, and possibly even a few other gods a plan of revenge. Hera drugged Zeus, and the group bound him to his bed, and she stole his thunderbolt. Thetis, however, summoned Briareus,
I think it's Briareus,
who managed to untie Zeus, who subsequently and mercilessly hung Hera from the sky with golden chains. In order to obtain her freedom, Hera had to swear to never rebel against her husband again, and so she directed her anger toward the lovers of Zeus and their offspring, becoming the vindictive and jealous wife that we have heard so much about so far. She tricked Semele into forcing her lover, which she knew to be Zeus, to reveal himself before her in all of his glory, and since humans cannot look upon the gods without incinerating, Semele perished and basically disintegrated into thin air. She later turned Callisto into a bear after she gave birth to Zeus's love child Arcas. After some time, just as Arcas was about to kill his mother, Zeus placed Callisto and her son into the sky as the constellations Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, the big and little bear. Hera prevented her daughter, Eileithyia, from attending the birth of Apollo, and this postponed the birth for 9 days and nights. She most famously did this with Heracles, and in this case, the delay caused Heracles to lose the throne of Argolid.
Oh, I have no idea. Something got deleted at some point.
Somebody endured quite a lot because of Hera, though.
Yeah.
Zeus transformed her, this person.
Callisto, maybe?
Maybe.
No, I don't know.
No, because she was already in. Zeus transformed this person into a cow so that she could hide from Hera, and then Hera sent Argus Panoptes to watch over her. She sent Hermes to kill Zeus. She later transformed Argus's ghost into a gadfly who bothered Lo. I'm guessing that might be their name.
Yeah, I think it's Lo.
So all this is about Lo.
Yeah.
Who am I even talking about at this point? I'm lost.
After the gadfly.
Okay. She later transformed Argus's ghost into a gadfly who bothered Lo in her cow form all the way to Egypt. Zeus impregnated her there with Epiphus.
Yeah, Epiphus.
When it came to her beauty, Hera was easily offended. Once Orion's wife sighed, boasted that she was just as beautiful as Hera, and so the goddess sent her to the underworld. When Laomedon's daughter Antigone did the same, Hera turned her into a stork. After Paris chose Aphrodite over Hera, Paris became the sworn enemy of Troy. Hera is often portrayed as just being the jealous and vengeful wife, but she was much more complex of a character than that. It is worth recognizing that she was also a powerful and fiercely independent goddess in her own right, ruling over marriage, family, and women's welfare. Her rage towards Zeus's infidelities was not only fueled by jealousy, but also because of his betrayal and the destabilization of their union.
Okay, here's a paragraph for me to read that I made a note of, and just in case I wasn't the one reading this one. So my interpretation is that she was forced into this marriage, and his infidelities for her were taken as a slap in the face, and the only power she possessed in that relationship was the ability to make his lovers suffer. And I was like, I'm not that well versed in Greek mythology yet, but I would just bet that he thought it was a game, and that is why he would jump through the hoops he did to quote unquote protect his lovers. If he wanted to, he could have just killed Hera and left it at that, but he never did that. I will probably personally dive a little bit more into this on my own time, even if it doesn't make it into an episode. Just to see if I'm interpreting that that correctly.
Gotcha. Good Lord. Sorry. No matter what the state of her relationship, she was not only fiercely protective of her family, but to all families. She was deeply committed to protecting the sanctity of marriage. Hera's throne on Mount Olympus was made of ivory and gold and was crafted by Hephaestus. It was said to be so incredibly majestic and beautiful that it rivaled that of Zeus. The city of Argos was home to one of the most important Hera cults in antiquity. This city held an annual festival in her honor, which was known as Heraea, and this is where athletic competitions were organized for young women. If that is what a cult is,
I think I might be down. I think I might be okay with that. Okay.
I will stop that in a second. I just feel like I probably have a cat hair in my throat because I was just assaulting.
I find though that the more that I talk during these, the more subtle sinus drainage I'll get sometimes.
Well, I just assaulted Willow with kisses a minute ago. So.
Yeah, you've probably got a cat hair in there. Okay, so this one I got really pumped about. So the winged herald and messenger of the Olympian gods, Hermes. You can say, I think Hermes is appropriate as well, but it's Hermes. So I'm saying Hermes. But anyway, so Hermes is also a divine trickster and the god of roads, flocks, commerce, and thieves. He was a precocious newborn. He invented the lyre, and on his very first day of life, he stole Apollo's cattle. Hermes was also the only Olympian capable of crossing the border between the living and the dead. This was a post-Gummy note. This is what I'm talking about. Let's fucking go. Many scholars believe that the name Hermes derives from the Greek word herma, which is it's translated to a heap of stones or a cairn. The latter was a common sight in the ancient world and served as trail or boundary markers. Some people believe that the first cairn was erected by the gods when they cast all of their stones in favor of Hermes during his trial for killing the Argus Panoptes. Archaic artists portrayed Hermes as a mature, bearded man, but later he would be primarily depicted as an athletically built, nude youth who was recognizable right away by 4 specific traits: a broad-brimmed hat, winged sandals, a purse, and a herald's wand. Hermes' wand was a short-winged staff that was entangled with 2 identical serpents. It had magical power to bring sleep upon people or rousing them from sleep. It is sometimes and most often confused with the rod of Asclepius, which is why Hermes' wand is often incorrectly used as a symbol of medicine. Some myths say that Hermes wasn't just a messenger of the gods, but also the inventor of speech. Because of this, he is often associated with oratory or interpretation. In Greece, an interpreter was called Hermenius, and today the science of interpretation is known as hermeneutics. As I mentioned earlier, Hermes was the only Olympian who was capable of crossing the boundary between the living and the dead, and he would carry souls of the dead to Hades. Over time, he became known as the conductor or the leader of souls, and some would also refer to him as patron of travelers and thieves, shepherd of men, trickster, and Argus slayer. Hermes was the son of Zeus and Maia and was born in a cave in Mount Cyllene in Arcadia at dawn. By noon, he had invented the lyre and played a hymn to celebrate his own birthday on it.
Yes.
This same evening, for reasons that remain a mystery, he stole the cattle of Apollo. He came back after and innocently tucked himself back into his cradle. I'm really sorry for this next part. I didn't do this. He did this. In order to invent said lyre, Hermes killed a tortoise and scooped its flesh from its shell. Then, to honor the Pleiades, he stretched 7 strings of sheep gut over the empty shell.
I hate this man.
Once Apollo figured out who stole his cattle, he was so angry at Hermes that bad things might have happened had Hermes not appeased him with a lyre-accompanied song. He sung a little ditty. In exchange, Apollo forgave his little brother for everything and swore to be his closest friend for all of time. It is said that as a token of this promise, Apollo gifted Hermes. Why is he gifting him anything? He stole from him.
Right.
And then was like, I don't know. Here's a little song about it. He gifted Hermes with his most emblematic object, the caduceus. By all accounts, Hermes was a darling among the gods. Supposedly, Artemis taught him how to hunt, and Pan showed him how to play the pipes. Hermes was the one to guide Persephone back to her mother, Demeter, whenever she was having to split her time between her mother and Hades, because he was like, that's mine. Above everything else, though, he was very close with his father and acted as a wingman for Zeus in many of his affairs. Most famously was his slaying via beheading of the 100-eyed giant Argus, who had been sent by Hera to watch over Zeus's lover. I think it's Io. I think that's an I.
Oh.
As a messenger, Hermes is often present in a lot of other myths. He escorts Pandora to Epimetheus. He led Perseus to Graii. It was a very, it was the pronunciation of that one that I found was fast. So it's Graii. And guided Priam safely to the tent of Achilles. He also showed Athena, Aphrodite, and Hera the way to Mount Ida, where Paris was supposed to judge which one was the prettiest. So we've really always been like this. We always just pin women against each other and judging who's prettier than the rest.
Right.
And then, of course, the other ones are going to get mad if they're not picked. Right. And as we know, she didn't like that. Anyways, often associated with fertility, Hermes was never married and only had a few consorts and children. Aphrodite bore him hermaphrodites or hermaphrodites. But it is generally pronounced exactly the way that it hermaphrodites, which we've heard the term, and possibly even Tyche, Cephalus, and the nymph Dryope, or Pan. Later poets link Hermes with Pytho or Hecate. Hecate? Is that right? One time Hermes and Apollo fell in love simultaneously with the virgin Chione, and both slept with her on the same day. She later gave birth to twins. Philemon took after Apollo and became a famous musician. It is not surprising that Hermes' son Autolycus became a trickster and a thief. Poets say that many of his traits were inherited by his grandson Odysseus. It is a common misconception that Hermes is primarily the god of thieves and tricksters. It is true that he is associated with these aspects, however, his other skills are just as important. His roles include messenger, guide, and protector of travelers, as well as his skills in diplomacy, oratory, and invention. It is also thought that Hermes was a dishonest and therefore untrustworthy deity, but in reality, he was often the one carrying out Zeus's orders, and his own cunning and resourcefulness allowed him to do these tasks successfully. A much lesser known fact about Hermes is that he is also considered to be the patron of gymnasia and palaestra, which were ancient Greek training centers for athletes. His physique was athletic, and his connection to physical prowess made him the ideal protector of these institutions. He is also revered as the god of dreams, and the ancient Greeks believed that he sent prophetic dreams to mortals. In this role, he was known as Oniros, which means dream in Greek.
So, fun story.
Mm-hmm.
Brittany had told me that this was her favorite.
Yes, I was really excited.
And then the day that she told me this was her favorite, the Nashville Humane Association had a cat on their roster for adoption who was named Hermes.
I got 6 cats.
And she refused to adopt him. I just checked and he's no longer there.
I have 6 cats.
They do have one named Tay. And it has a brother named Ty.
I'm sure they will go to very loving homes.
All right, this next one is Hestia. One of the original 12 Olympians and firstborn child of Cronus and Rhea, Hestia is the Greek goddess of hearth and was pure and peaceful. Since she always had to stay home to tend the fireplace, Hestia was not involved in all that many myths, and as a consequence, at a later stage, she would be replaced in the pantheon with a much wilder Dionysus. Hestia's name means hearth or fireplace, and her status as an Olympian demonstrates how important the hearth was in both social and religious aspects of the lives of ancient Greeks. Making and preserving fire was essential and incredibly difficult for the more primitive societies, making the household fire a sacred element at the very early stages of history. In later days, Hestia became its embodiment. There are very few representations of Hestia, but she is usually portrayed as a modest, middle-aged, veil-wearing woman. She sometimes stands by a large fire and is carrying either a staff or holding some flowers in her hands. The ancient Greeks also did not have too many epithets to describe her, but beloved, eternal, and she of the public hearth were the most commonly used ones. As I previously mentioned, she was the firstborn child of the Titan Cronus and Rhea, and she was also the first one swallowed by Cronus and was consequently the final one disgorged. She is sometimes referred to as the youngest child of the couple. With fire being a pure and purifying element, Hestia was worshipped as a virgin goddess. Some say that she became a virgin in order to maintain the peace at Olympus, namely because both Apollo and Poseidon wanted to marry her, and she feared that choosing either one would result in turmoil. Hestia swore to an eternal virginity by placing her hand to Zeus's head. In return for her maintaining the order, Zeus rewarded her in place of her marriage and granted her a central place in the house, and was basically given first dibs of the richest portions of the humans' divine offerings. There was only one time that Hestia's chastity was threatened. At a rustic feast, the god of fertility, Priapus, attempted to rape her while she slept. Fortunately, a donkey began to bray and woke up both Hestia and the other guest, who subsequently chased Priapus away in contempt. Since then, donkeys were rested and garlanded on Hestia's feast day. Hestia was gentle and peace-loving, so she didn't appear in a lot of myths. Plato stated that this was because she has to remain in the house of all the gods, all by herself, tending the eternal celestial fire, even when all of the other Olympians ritually pass in processions through the heavens. This is her privilege and also her predicament. Hestia's only manifestation among humans was the crackling of fire. Aristotle says that it is the sound of the goddess laughing. And honestly, I quite like that thought.
I do. I really like that.
Hestia is often overlooked or misunderstood, and it is a misconception that she was a minor goddess, when she was in fact one of the original 12 Olympians. Her importance is often understated. The hearth and home were central to the daily lives of the Greeks and served as the gathering place for families and was a universal symbol of unity. Lastly, Hestia is sometimes considered to be a weak or passive goddess due to her nature to be non-confrontational, but her commitment to peace and harmony represents a strength and resilience in the face of potential conflict and chaos. The hearth and her sanctuary played a crucial role in the Olympic Games. Athletes would light their torches from Hestia's sacred flame and would carry them back to their home cities and spread the spirit of unity and sportsmanship. The first of the Olympians we have discussed offerings for, Hestia is often honored with the first and the last offerings at feasts and sacrifices. These offerings usually included wine, oil, and portions of the sacrificed animals.
The violent and ill-tempered god of the sea, Poseidon was also feared as the provoker of earthquakes and was worshipped as the creator of the horse. He was a very hot-blooded deity that had many disputes with not only gods and men, but also very famously with Athena and Odysseus. The name Poseidon is very old, and the meaning of his name has been lost to time, despite various authors attempting to translate it as either husband of the earth or lord of the waters. Plato said that it means knower of many things, but this is unlikely. Today, Poseidon is pretty exclusively known as the god of the sea, but in ancient times he may have also been the god of the earth and fertility, even possibly supreme god of the sky. He is often portrayed looking much like Zeus, with a distinguished beard, dense curly hair, and piercing eyes. Homer said that his shriek was as loud as that of 10,000 men combined. He is most commonly depicted riding a 4-horse chariot and wielding a trident over the waves. The trident is his most recognizable emblem, even though his son Triton also carries one. It is said that Poseidon struck a rock with his trident to create the first horse, Scythios, during the Gigantomachy. Poseidon used the trident to break off a piece of the island Kos. He subsequently entombed the giant Polybotes under the island. Today, this piece is known as the island of Nisyros. Because Poseidon had many different powers, the ancient Greeks created many epithets to describe his manifestations and pray to him. To some people, he was the savior of sailors, and to others, he was the averter of earthquakes. Been having a lot of earthquakes recently. I say that just to note that. There was a third group of people that referred to him as the creator and tamer of horses. And lastly, a fourth group called him the leader of the nymphs. He was the second son of Kronos and Rhea. Like all his siblings, Poseidon was swallowed by Cronus at birth, and thanks to Zeus, he was disgorged unharmed. That said, some do say that Rhea managed to hide Poseidon from his father's rage with either a flock of lambs in Arcadia or in Rhodes to be raised by Oceanus' daughter, Kythera, and the Telchines. As mentioned before, Poseidon was a very violent, impulsive, and hot-blooded, and could not put up with Zeus being so arrogant of a ruler. Poseidon teamed up with Athena and Hera to teach Zeus a lesson. However, with the help of Thetis and Briareus, Zeus was able to overpower his challengers. As punishment, Poseidon and Apollo were sent to serve the Trojan king Laomedon, who they would build the vast and beautiful walls surrounding Troy. When the time came, though, Laomedon refused to pay them for their work. This resulted in Poseidon, against the advice of Zeus, to fight on the Greek side during the Trojan War, sending a sea monster named Cetus to torment the Trojans. Being the narcissist that he was, Poseidon destroyed the fortifications built by the Greeks because he firmly believed that his walls are the only buildings of the type worthy to remain standing. He also had a decade-long feud with Greek hero Odysseus because he blinded his son, Polyphemus. I'm having a hard time getting my tongue to cooperate. Another character trait of the god of the sea was that he was greedy, especially when it came to earthly kingdoms. He once wanted to obtain Athens from Athena and claimed that the city would have more benefit from him than from her. In order to prove this as fact, he struck his trident into a rock, which created a seawater stream that welled up in the temple of Erechthion on the northern side of the Acropolis. In turn, as we know, Athena planted an olive tree. Cecropa, the first king of Athens, decided that Athena's gift was much more useful as it provided fruit, oil, and wood. Athena kept Athens, and since then, the olive branch is the universal symbol of peace. Just like his brother Zeus, Poseidon had a weak spot when it came to women. And also like Zeus, he was not really loved back by that many of them. What he couldn't acquire with romance and gentleness, he would acquire through violence and craftiness. He took Caeneus and Medusa, who was later transformed into a beast by Athena as a punishment for allowing this to happen. After Perseus beheaded the pregnant monster, Medusa gave birth to Poseidon's children, Chris R.
All I see in that is rar.
Yeah. And Pegasus. In order to trick Demeter, who turned into a mare in order to reject his advances, he transformed himself into a stallion to trick her. Afterward, Demeter gave birth to the nymph Despoina. I'm really struggling. I don't know why I'm struggling.
Despoina.
I think you're right. Despona.
Yep.
Yeah. And the talking horse, Arion, with I'm trying to remember how I want it, like how specifically that is supposed to be said. Amamone? I think it's Amamone. Poseidon fathered Nauplius with Ethra, the divine hero Theseus. There were hundreds of consorts and probably just as many children. This doesn't mean that Poseidon wasn't married, though. His faithful wife throughout, Amphitrite, was a Nereid. In the beginning, she fought the relationship and even ran to the Atlas Mountains to escape the god of the sea. But Poseidon sent Delphinus to win her, and he did so with flying colors. As a favor, Poseidon set his image among the stars, which is the constellation Dolphin. She bore him 3 children, Triton, Rhode, and Benthescimi.
There you go.
A common misconception about Poseidon is that he was exclusively a vengeful and cruel god and that he only brought destruction and chaos. While his temper and capacity for violence was definitely a major character feature of him, he also played a vital role in maintaining the balance of the seas and was considered to be a protector of sailors and fishermen. Many people mistakenly believe that Poseidon was responsible for all natural disasters, including storms and earthquakes. However, the ancient Greeks understood that other gods and forces of nature also contributed to these events, not Poseidon alone. It is sometimes overlooked that Poseidon was associated with horses and horsemanship, but he was often referred to as the tamer of horses and was credited with creating the first horse, Scyphios, by striking a rock with his trident. This highlights another aspect of his power and influence over the natural world and extends beyond the seas and oceans. Another little-known aspect of Poseidon is his link to the ancient city of Atlantis. Plato said that Poseidon was the founder and patron deity of this legendary island, which was said to be a utopian society with great power and wealth. The Atlantis myth serves as a testament to Poseidon's influence in ancient Greek mythology, as well as his connection to ideas of power, wealth, and the mysteries of the deep sea.
All right, so last but certainly not least, we have arrived at our 12th and final Olympian, Zeus, the Olympian god of the sky and the thunder, and the king of all other gods and men, and also the chief figure in Greek mythology. One of his greatest claims to fame is his infidelity to his sister and wife Hera, but we will get to that later, as if we haven't already covered some of it. It is thought that Zeus's name originated from the ancient Greek word for bright. This word has close connection with dies, which is the Latin word for day, and has ancient history. Many mythologists believe that Zeus is one of the oldest Greek gods. Zeus is often depicted with a scepter in one hand and a thunderbolt in the other. Both symbolize his authority. He sometimes wears a crown of oak leaves, as the oak was deemed to be his sacred tree. Homer repeatedly described Zeus as Aegis-bearing. The Aegis was an enormous shield that Zeus frequently carried with him, but would lend it to Athena, his daughter, on occasion. He also had a pet golden eagle named Phaedos Dios. Zeus was considered the rule of the heavens and the governor of weather, but was also associated with wisdom and awareness, with authority and destiny, with battles and power. Homer says that prior to the fight between Achilles and Hector, Zeus weighed their lots and blessed the outcome, and further down, the poet claims that Zeus owns 2 urns, one filled with ills and one filled with blessings. These are the gifts he gives to every mortal in the amount that he so chooses. Some of the epithets that Greeks gave Zeus were warlike, oathkeeper, guest patron, all Greek, and savior. Paradoxically,
You said it right.
Did I? It didn't.
Paradoxically,
it didn't sound right to me when I said it. Zeus is both the youngest and the eldest son of Cronus and Rhea. Cronus, then ruler of the gods, had just created the world and had learned that one of his children would overthrow him, and so he swallowed Zeus's 3 sisters and 2 brothers at birth, Demeter, Hera, Hestia, Hades, and Poseidon. Zeus would have been eaten himself if Rhea hadn't slipped Cronus a stone swaddled in blankets in his place, hiding her youngest child in a cave on the Cretan mountain Ida. Here, Zeus was raised by nymphs, and he met his first wife, Metis, or Wisdom. Upon her advice, he masked himself as an Olympian cupbearer and tricked his father into drinking poisoned wine. The wine made Cronus violently ill, and he vomited so much that he disgorged Zeus's siblings, all intact and ready for revenge. Their second birth made the youngest among them actually their eldest brother. Thus, his siblings had no issue with acknowledging his authority. Led by Zeus with assistance from the one-eyed Cyclops and the 100-handed Hecatoncheires, both of whom were also freed from Cronus's imprisonment, the siblings overthrew Cronus, and the Titans during a decade-long war called the Titanomachi. Yeah, that's right. Based off of the spelling.
Yeah, based off that. Yeah.
Zeus and his brothers drew lots to share in the world. Poseidon got the sea, Hades the underworld, and Zeus the sky. Lastly, Zeus was crowned to be the ruler of all gods and men and was universally referred to as Father. Zeus's reign didn't get off to a great start, though, because his grandmother, Gaia, was angry with him for imprisoning the Titans, and she summoned her children, the Gigantes, to avenge her. This led to another war. Give me a second. Gigantomachy, which saw the Olympians prevailing once again. This further enraged Gaia, and she gave birth to Typhoeus, a giant, fire-blowing serpentine monster. Even the mighty Zeus needed some help from Hermes and Pan to defeat the creature after a cataclysmic battle. When he was a young ruler, Zeus was getting a little too big for his britches, giving off prideful and petulant vibes. This led to Hera, Poseidon, and Apollo, and maybe everyone but Hestia, deciding to teach him a lesson. While he slept, they stole his thunderbolt and bound him with 100 knotted cords. Zeus was powerless, but the Nereid Thetis acted quickly and called Briareus the Hecatoncheire, who used his 100 arms to untie him in a split second. Zeus brutally punished the 3 leaders of his rebellion, particularly his sister wife Hera, and sister wife not meaning what we use in today's terms.
This is the inbred
his sister,
type.
Also wife, Hera, and they all swore to never challenge him again. But Prometheus did. First by stealing the divine fire and giving it to the mortals, and then by keeping the secret of the identity of the mortal woman whose future son was prophesied to become greater than his father. As a result, Zeus chained up Prometheus to a rock and tormented him for a very, very long time, but Prometheus continued to refuse to reveal the secret to him. In the end, for reasons lost to time, the Titan did tell Zeus that the woman in question was Thetis. Is that right?
Yeah, Thetis.
Okay. Zeus stopped pursuing her and gave her to Peleus, and the son born out of this marriage did in fact grow up to be a celebrated Greek hero and in fact possibly one of the greatest, Achilles. As we have mentioned previously, Zeus was a ladies' man, and according to Hesiod, he had the same problem with his first wife, Metis, and had been warned that their child may be a threat to him. Zeus decided to swallow his pregnant wife. I really don't know why he thought this would have worked out in his favor, considering how well it went for his dad, but here we are.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, the child, fully grown and armored, was eventually born, except from the forehead of Zeus. It was none other than Athena, the goddess of wisdom herself. Afterwards, Zeus married Themis, who gave birth to Hori and the Fates for him. His third wife was Eurynome, who brought the Carides to the world. His fourth wife was his sister Demeter, who gave birth to Persephone. His fifth wife, Mnemosyne, gave Zeus the Muses. His sixth wife was Leto, who became the mother of Apollo and Artemis. Hera was his seventh and final wife, as well as his sister. He wooed her with her sympathy for animals. She was a virgin and transformed herself into a distressed little cuckoo, which she took into her arms to woo. At that moment, Zeus turned back into himself and slept with her. She was ashamed and thus agreed to marry him. Their marriage would prove to be bittersweet because, as we've really learned this episode and in the last part, Zeus was a very promiscuous god. He had numerous affairs with nymphs and mortals as well, and this made Hera jealous. Some say that when she scolded him for this, he disguised himself as a serpent and slept with his mother, Rhea. As a consequence, many gods and heroes are Zeus's children, and it is impossible to list them all. He had approximately 26 children included, not those already mentioned, but also Aeacus, Angelos, Helen of Troy, Harmonia, Pandia, and so on. In Roman mythology, Zeus is called Jupiter. His powers, symbolism, and some of the stories created around him are similar to those of other deities, such as Norse gods Thor and Odin, the Hinduist deity Indra, and the Slavic thunder god Perun. A common misconception about Zeus is that he was an infallible and wise ruler who always made fair judgments and was always on his best behavior. Zeus was known for his womanizing jealousy and sometimes for being vindictive against those who dared cross him. It is also assumed that Zeus was just the god of thunder and lightning. It also goes ignored that he also played roles as a protector of justice, hospitality, and oaths. These aspects are much lesser known about his character. These aspects that are much lesser known about his character provide a more well-rounded understanding of his influence and importance in Greek mythology. Another overlooked fact about Zeus and his connection to the ancient Greek concept of xenia which is the code of hospitality that governed the relationship between guest and host. He was a protector of travelers, an enforcer of xenia, and played a crucial role in ensuring that guests were treated respectfully with kindness, and that the host received the same treatment. This character trait highlights the importance of social order and reciprocity in the society of ancient Greece. He was also associated with the Oracle of Dodona, which was one of the oldest and most important oracles in the ancient world. The oracle was dedicated to Zeus and his consort Dione and Epirus in northwestern Greece. It was famous for its sacred oak tree where rustling leaves were believed to reveal the god's will. This connection to the oracle and the ancient practice of divination further presents Zeus's role as a dispenser of wisdom and guidance in the lives of the ancient Greeks.
Listen, I can get behind the Greek gods, it feels more believable somehow. Like, it sounds absurd, but it sounds more believable, in my personal opinion.
I just got a text saying if you and Aunt Brittany want to grab snacks while recording, I'm working. Probably not tonight.
We'll see where the night takes us, but probably not. Probably not tonight. If we were going to do that, we probably would have already gone. Yeah.
That's usually a pre-recording trip, and with the plan for tonight, it's not going to work out.
Yeah. The Nashville Food Project. If it's a problem, the handles in the bottom.
I just wasn't ready for it to go back as far as it did.
The Nashville Food Project's mission is to bring people together to grow, cook, and share nourishing food with the goal of cultivating community and alleviating hunger in our city. The Nashville Food Project was born from the idea that all people should have access to the food they want and need, and we know that 1 in 7 people in Nashville lacks access to enough food to sustain a healthy lifestyle. But we also know that more than 40% of all of the food in our city goes to waste. Solutions to hunger take much more than simple handouts. Poverty, unemployment, low wages, and escalating housing costs all contribute to the challenges that the most vulnerable residents of our city face. And should you feel so inclined to donate to our nonprofit of the month, I will leave the link below for you to be able to do that of your own accord. We never see any of this money. All these links go straight to the organizations themselves, and we don't collect any money for any of these. So
no, because if we're going to take your money, we want you to know what that money's going towards.
Yeah. So
with that being said, there is still an Amazon wish list out there.
Yeah. You can still buy stickers on the Etsy shop too.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And then also we need things. We need things. It would be nice to have a camera.
Yeah. Maybe one day. One of these days.
One of these days.
For the time being, though, you can follow us on Instagram,
Facebook,
YouTube,
TikTok.
Email us.
wandersofweird@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.